About a year ago, we had the Secretary of the Air Force talking to the cadets, saying our next war will not be on land. It's going to be out in space, and you need to be prepared for it. That was kind of strange. Then followed up 2 months later, you have our president saying he wanted to create a space force. So I don't know. When all this stuff transpired, that's when I started remembering Reagan really heavy, what he said to me. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's very interesting. If you look at the official sources, the leaders of our countries and other countries, they have said all kinds of things about UFOs that are clearly saying, oh, yeah, they're real. Some more forthright than others, like Paul Hellyer, certainly, the Defense Minister of Canada.
Oh, he swears up and down.
Right? And so, these are people that are in very high-level positions. There are presidents, there are generals, there are senators, there are governors, there are representatives all throughout our country alone who have gone on record saying they've seen UFOs and totally believe they're real. So I don't know how much disclosure people need.
Well, people forget. Remember Armstrong on the moon and the other two astronauts? What did they say? And NASA kept telling him, go to the medical channel. But he was saying, look at those crafts. They're far more superior and bigger than anything we have. And he was rambling about that. And he swears that they were alien craft on the moon. Is that why we haven't gone back to the moon?
Yeah, I think it's part of it. We are going back to the moon. So this is another reason why I think we're going to see disclosure, because there's other things to cover up now that they don't want to talk about. This whole secret space race, exploration of other planets may possibly already be taking place. We're having apparently regular contacts with ETs. There are multiple reports of ETs working with humans at Area 51, at Edwards, and other places.
Well, there's a lady, Mary Joyce. It runs a reporting center out of Cashiers, North Carolina. It's a UFO reporting center, kind of like, what Peter Davenport does. But she also covers Bigfoot and stuff like that. But she, on one of my shows, and even off the air, we were talking about that she had somebody with a top clearance, government clearance, tell her that they're in North Carolina on a base, which they happen to be expanding right now, big time, is that ETs have been working with the government for the last couple years out of that base, sharing technology.
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me. One of my books is called Undersea UFO Base, which is basically about all the activity of UFOs and USOs, unidentified submersible objects, coming in and out of the water here, sometimes in very large numbers. I sort of built up this compelling case, I think, for why I think there's a base there. And part of it is because there's so much activity in this very sharply defined area for a very long time, and it's continuing. Some of these involve hundreds of objects. There's that weird Malibu anomaly down there. And there's a number of reasons why I think there's a base there. People have actually been abducted and taken into an underground area, not a UFO. But one of the reasons was some whistleblower reports. There's one in particular, which I didn't get to speak to the person firsthand. It's a second or third-hand interview, really. But I found it, and it says that, yes, there is a base. This lady says she worked there, and the only reason, or she knows about it, and the only reason she can talk about it is because all the information is really kind of already out there on the Internet. And she said there is a base in the Santa Catalina Channel, the San Pedro Channel, that is human and alien, and they're working together. Probably, it wouldn't surprise me a bit if we have multiple of these bases. I know there was an abductee by the name of Jean Marie Robinson who had all kinds of experiences and was approached by a government agent who offered to take her to an undersea government base.
Oh, wow.
And she declined. She said, no, I don't want to go, thank you. But yeah, I think there's a lot more going on underground and certainly in our waters than is being publicized.
Way more. And that's what the scary part is. Again, how can I say it? I mean, I really feel that we are being visited. I really think that they're collecting DNA. They're maybe channeling to certain people and all this stuff. But then I got a funny feeling, just like anything, look at Nazi Germany, how they, wanted to take power. I got a funny feeling there might be some ETs out there are not the friendly type also that would maybe love to see us destroy our planet,
Yeah, the reason I totally agree with that is I think that's absolutely logical. We don't know where we live. It could be a very bad neighborhood, galactically speaking. And let's look at our planet for a second. We, in terms of, getting along, are making a real mess of it. There's this greed that has choked our entire planet. There does seem to be a real push to confuse people and drug people, literally, get them on drugs, whether it's prescription or illegal. It's a huge problem. And the fact that one of the top 10 causes of death in the United States is suicide, I mean, what is going on here? There seems to be some evil force of people who are not looking for our greatest good, who have a lot of power and have a lot of wealth and are doing their best to sort of retard our progress. So I totally agree with you, and I'm not sure if these are necessarily all, human beings as we would think of them. There are people on Earth who claim to have ET heritage and could be the power elite, the one percenters. I don't know. I do think it's naive to think this is all rainbows and lollipops.
Yeah.
No, it's not. And there are people who are severely traumatized by their UFO encounters, who don't have a good time. They're medically damaged. But by and large, after I flip-flopped on this quite a bit, to be absolutely honest. When I first got involved in this field, I'm like, oh my God, these abductions are horrifying. And as the years passed, I kind of saw that the purpose of them was not to scare people at all. There was really no evidence. In fact, when people were in pain, ETs usually made some sort of movement to stop their pain. And often when they were scared or screaming, the ETs seemed puzzled by it, that we were overly emotional, and they didn't understand our emotions.
Well, so, you have to understand. No, how could they? We grew up from Leave It to Beaver, and before that, I mean, we're young. We're still young infants yet. But the thing is, we don't know, how can I say it, another race of whatever, humanoids or reptilian, whatever, okay, could be so far advanced than what we are that they look at us as no more than we look at that, ant on the, step of your porch. I mean, that's the scary part. We don't know how they really look at us.
Yeah, well, certainly people I've talked to feel that, the Greys look at them just that way and have this way to look right through a person and know every single thing about them. And, people feel absolutely mentally inferior to a lot of these ETs. But these ETs seem to be very interested in us. On the other hand, they're very all about humans. Everyone wants to examine us, and there's just a lot of interest from a wide group of ETs in everything human. So what is that? I mean, it's a tough situation to really get a handle on. And as far as abductions, they might not be evil or, something that's trying to destroy humanity, but how we look at it, anywhere, in pretty much any society, kidnapping is a crime. You really have to ask people, this is not right. And if the ETs can hear me now, get a grip. These guys have to improve their bedside manner. Their social skills are lacking severely when it comes to contacting humans in many cases.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I had somebody that claimed that they were, kidnapped by aliens, right, and abducted. And when they were returned not where they actually started out from. That was interesting. But then I've had cases where I had a lady on my show who and her husband claimed that they were abducted out of their bed, and when they woke up in the morning, his pajamas was on backwards, her top was on backwards. Unless they got really frisky in the middle of the night and forgot about it, I don't know. But, it's just, it's astounding. I hate to say it. I don't want to be abducted. I don't want to be put down and experimented on and then returned, even if they can improve my health or whatever. I mean, how do we know that they're improving everybody's health? It could be the opposite, too.
Yeah, I mean, there's some evidence of, people who get too close to UFOs or are struck by a beam of light, it affects their health negatively. But I can say, personally, with pretty good confidence that one of the ET agendas is improving the health of humanity. Because, I just finished this book. It's 300 cases. They stretch back over 100 years. They come from every culture. And there is no doubt in my mind that this is what ETs are doing. I've got 60 documented cases of people who were healed of injuries. And by that I mean a little cut on your hand, a broken foot, back pain. I've got 15 cases involving people who were healed of back pain, 15 cases of people who had vision improvements, several dental healings, over 40 cases of people who were healed of virtually every form of cancer, breast cancer, uterine cancer, colon cancer, pancreatic cancer. So there is definitely, for sure, a healing agenda on the part of the ETs, and they're all doing it. It's mostly Greys, but Nordics as well. Few even reptilian healings, praying mantis certainly. And I can just march out case after case. One guy contacted me from Belgium. He was having incredible foot problems that the doctors could not heal or diagnose, really. He had tried every form of therapy and was doing laser therapy, which didn't help. His foot was worse. He got to the point where he couldn't walk. He was a very young man, very athletic. And just finally he buckled down and prayed. He had had a number of, ET experiences in the past, missing time. And he prayed really to just God and the angels and anybody, and ended up being visited by ETs who healed his foot. Another lady had a back injury. She's from Norway, and she couldn't work because of it. She says Greys showed up. She told me this personally. Tumbled her around a bit, put her on her stomach, did something to her back. She's like, "What are you doing? Who are you?" And they wouldn't communicate at all, which kind of frightened her. But finally, just suddenly filed out of the room. She said it was extremely bright outside. She ran to the window. It was this kind of eerie, colored light, and then winked off. And that's when she realized her back was completely healed. And both of these people are grateful. They love the ETs. They're very happy, and do not feel as if they were abducted. They feel like it was a good experience.
Well, I had a guest on my show months ago that he had terminal cancer, and he, told me he only had a few months to live. And then he claims he was abducted, taken on a UFO, was put on some type of, table type of thing, and they were doing all this stuff. He said it hurt like you wouldn't believe. It was a lot of pain. He said he remembers screaming and all that stuff. And then he was returned. And then all of a sudden he started feeling better. He goes to the doctor, and his terminal cancer is now, there's no trace of cancer in him.
I've heard this many times. Often when people have cancer cures, it, generally speaking, involves an onboard experience, which is not true for a number of the healings. But with cancer, it is. And yes, it usually involves an operation that is often described as painful. But they come away from it healed of what we would call a chronic terminal condition. So, that is remarkable evidence not only of ET reality, but of ET benevolence. Because, why are they healing these people? Some of these people are actually quite elderly. They're not, being used for genetic experiments anymore. One lady, she was cured. She was 67 years old. Another guy was in his 80s. What's going on here? I'm not sure. In some cases, people do feel like they're being used by the ETs, and that's why their health is maintained. But, gosh, half at least, no. They feel like, these are my friends. I'm really happy and blessed.
Hey, Preston, we're going to take a 2-minute break, and then we'll come back. And then I want to talk about your book and more about, that book you just wrote. I just lost. Inside UFO's True Accounts of Contacts.
Right.